Hey, I did the assignment and I watched News Gathering and Privacy Part 1, Who Did What, as well as the Katie Couric and Bob Woodward Good News Tips Professional video blogs, I guess, or info sessions, and I agreed with most of what they had to say. I'll go in order. The info and news gathering one I thought it's important because it teaches people the importance of knowing where you can and cannot be, especially with government officials. I worked for the Daily Tar Heel for 9 months as on the city beat, quote unquote, as well as doing that for my news reporting class, and I can safely say that government officials, if they will say you can't talk to someone or you can't be somewhere, and you may be, and the most important thing you can know is what you can and cannot do around them so you can get the information you need. As for privacy, at the end of the day, just go where you can, but if you don't have permission, don't risk it. I mean, sure, it's cool in the movies when they sneak around in someone's house, but if you get caught, you're going to be facing charges. And even if you have permission to be on someone's front porch, as they said, if you end up in their bedroom, you may be breaking more than just an invasion of privacy law there. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting video as for who did what. It just framed, in my opinion, one of the hardest things about news writing, particularly in AP style or for just a straight news article, which is the lead in framing a story. I still struggle to this day with framing a story in a very interesting and catchy way. You need an active verb, but it still has to be reporting a past event, and it just needs to flow really well. And the whole idea of the inverted pyramid, you can get into more detail and expand on it later, but it all has to relate back. If you start meandering around, which is really easy to do, the story's just gonna suck. The Katie Couric video I thought was mostly interesting. I thought she played it pretty safe. I think it's a lot easier to get interviews. She didn't talk about how hard it is to get a good interview. She just talked about giving them, which is much easier to do when you're anchor of the CBS nightly news or the Today Show on NBC. But I agreed with most of what she had to say, and I mean, you do want to be empathetic and friendly to your source, because they'll be more likely to give something up unless you're doing a charged interview, which means they're trying to get something out of you. She says David Dukes, but you could tell she was really talking about Sarah Palin, and I agree. I think she gave a good interview in that case, despite what they say, and she was mostly right. As for the Bob Woodward video, well, I guess she was entirely right, but the Bob Woodward video on investigative journalism I thought was the most intriguing because, again, working for the DTH in my reporting class, you struggle to get 2 or 3 sources for a story, maybe 4 or 5, and then you feel comfortable with that, and if you don't have a car, which most of the time I didn't, you have to go off official documents and interviews by phone or email or what have you. And while that's good, you can get information that way, the story's not going to be nearly as in-depth as it should be, or as it could be if you could actually get there and speak. Bob Woodward had that great tale he had of reporting on a coffee shop which was closed because it had the lowest sanitation score in DC history. And he thought it was in one hotel, and only because his editor told him to get out of the office and go the 2 or 3 blocks to the coffee shop did he find out it was actually in another hotel. Sure, it was a great story, and it still was a great story, but he almost committed possibly libel. There would have at least been a retraction involved, and well, I haven't done anything that bad. There have been parts of my story which are wrong, and if I could have maybe just talked to a few more people or actually gone to some of these places, my stories I think would have been better. And it's something I still struggle with, and I imagine we all do, especially in journalism schools. So I highly recommend that video.